Okay, it is Wednesday, May 27th at 6:46 p.m. and we'll call the Industrial Development Commission meeting to order. Present, we have Laura Parker, myself, Renee Deli, Michael Toole, Denise Luciano, and Mike Massini, who it looks like we dropped on one, but we have him on the phone. And then we have two guests as well. So in respect to the agenda, kind of the typical items, new business interests, the marijuana bylaw and overlay project. We'll do some updates there. Marketing brochure that we'll talk about in respect to Condyne. And then I had on here review of previous meeting minutes. We'll see what we have for time and if we can review the May 12th minutes on the screen. Otherwise, I did not send those out. I didn't have a chance to take a look at them first. So if we can't get to those, then we'll just do the next meeting. Okay, so Laura, you want to talk about, I wanted to talk briefly about, in respect to new business interests, I sent an email out from Jeff O'Neill from Condyne in respect to, hold on, a pharmaceutical manufacturing company, product manufacturing company that is interested in Massachusetts, moving from, their interests are moving from North Carolina to Massachusetts. So what he was asking and what he would like is, Denise, are you saying something?
Sorry. My son is asking me a question.
Oh, okay. No, that's fine. I just didn't know if we were supposed to hear you and we didn't. I just have to find, I'm sorry. I did email this out. Just the notification of it. I just can't find it on my screen right now. Give me one second.
I had actually forgotten about it. I had seen it. It says potential GMP letter of support, I think.
Yes. I flagged it. Oh my goodness. I can't believe I flagged it in my email. I can't believe how many emails I've gotten since yesterday. So I had a brief, Jeff had sent the email and then I had a brief discussion only because of the way his email came through as confidential GMP requirement. And so I called him and I said, if anything's confidential, we can't discuss it at the IDC. So if you want support, we won't be able to support it. But what he meant was that this company, it's a foreign company, pharmaceutical manufacturing. And as I indicated, they're looking to Massachusetts. He doesn't know who the company is, so they have somebody representing them. What they're looking at is to be in a building by September, October. Their requirements are that they need wide column spacing and sizable clear height. And he said Blue Star solves for that. In respect to building number 4, they would take over all 125,000 square feet is one of their locations. So they, he said the manufacturer, I'm just going to read from the email. The manufacturer process incorporates movable modular clean rooms that attach and stack. And what he was looking for was a letter of support from the town and the IDC to bring the business here. So Mike had responded, I think I may have put this in the email. He responded back to Jeff and then also forward this to Paul Feeney, Steve Howitt, and Jay Barrows for their letters of support as well. I haven't seen a response from that, so I don't know if they have. I mean, they may have responded to Mike separately. But again, you know, one of the things, and we talked about this when Jeff was here last time about, and it's our item number 3 about the marketing brochure, that they would be willing to help us to do something for the town in respect to, you know, focusing on what are the great things about the town. And so what he talked about here and what I sent out to you is his crew drafted a letter of support, and it's the same letter that Mike has as well. So I said to him, I'm like, you know, please send us the draft. And then if the IDC agrees, you know, we'll certainly mark it up and send it back to the appropriate address that we need to. But you know, one of the things I liked from his conversation initially was, you know, just talking about the fact of what Blue Star, actually both properties offer in respect to all the utilities. We obviously have a competitive tax rate. I think we're the second lowest in our area, if I remember from the 10 area towns. And then he mentioned the Wheaton Science Lab and access to labor. So for this particular one, he said they plan on investing $60 million or in excess of $60 million inside the space. So it's, you know, they're certainly looking to come in, make a name, and be here for a while with that type of an investment. So just wanted to put it out to the group. I don't really have any answers to questions. He doesn't know the company. One of the things I think of, like when I send a letter of support, is I want to know who the company is, because we do a little due diligence in respect to, what's the reputation, what have we heard, it's just basic stuff to see kind of like how communities have responded. But we don't have any of that information. So I think it's more general support to say, we'd like the opportunity really to pursue this and start some dialogue, really.
So,
Can I ask? Sorry, go ahead.
Renee, so this came through Mike, right? This was Condyne through Mike to you.
No, this was from Condyne to me and Mike.
Okay. And were they saying are they open to an NDA or anything like that? And or is, I know we can't discuss it in a public forum, but how do you find out about the company if there's confidentiality of the company? And I'm assuming they were approached by a broker, like Condyne.
Yeah. So Colliers International. Colliers
Yeah.
International. Yeah. Yep. So they're representing this company. So I think what they're doing, and Jeff said when I talked to him, I'm like, well, how do you not know anything? And he's like, it's pretty standard, right? Like
Right.
Big companies like this will essentially hire somebody to go out, scope areas, and then, pick like the top 3. And then all of a sudden they engage with the town. Then you get more information. So it's kind of a weird process, but I mean, being on the other end of that, when I was with a different financial services company and we were looking for different locations, we did the same thing. We didn't say who we were initially. We wanted to see, can the region support it? Does it make sense financially? Does it make sense from a labor force? And then, they would do more engagement, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Renee, just one thing I
Sure.
wanted to point out. I think you had said they were moving from North Carolina to Mass. The way I'm reading this email is they are looking for space anywhere from Massachusetts to North Carolina. So they're looking up the entire East Coast.
I read it as they were looking in North Carolina and then decided to go to Mass, but maybe.
That's how I'm interpreting that, but I can't be.
I understood it as Laura's saying that they were
Okay.
looking that whole East Coast. Yeah.
Yeah. Mid-Atlantic to the Northeast. And do we know what GMP is?
Yeah, so that's general manufacturing product.
Actually, I
probably
just
say it
Googled
wrong.
it.
Google it.
GMP, good manufacturing
Good.
practices.
Yes.
Cosmetics, pharmaceutical, dietary, and medical supplements.
I had to Google it too when it came
Yeah. Oh, at first I thought GMP was the name of the business. So.
in. So the letter, the letter that he sent, I mean, it's a pretty standard letter. Again, if we want to support this and send a letter on behalf of the Industrial Development Commission, we'll tweak this a bit so that our letters don't sound the same.
I was going to say, was the intent for us to have separate letters or for us to just tack on like both Mike and us onto the same letter?
I think it would be more impactful if we had separate letters, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you're showing like you have a commission
duplicate
versus
letters from.
Right.
I'm not appreciative of the copy and paste.
So I did ask him for a draft though, so we didn't, we are volunteers in the end. Oh, I have Mike in why is Norton Media Center joining? So anyway, thoughts on that? Mike, I'm sorry. I know that you're on the phone, but I missed you on coming in on your PC again.
Yeah, I'm on board with doing that. So what would be the plan, to take what Mike drafted and then we'll modify it? And
Yeah, so the draft came from Jeff.
that draft letter came from Jeff.
Yes.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, I think, we can use it kind of as foundation, but I definitely think that we should change it a bit and really talk about why we would want them here.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a no-brainer, right? I mean, this letter isn't committing to us. This is saying, yeah, we would love the opportunity to dance. So I think it's a no-brainer for us to move forward on this, especially at the size of the tenant.
Okay. Does somebody want to, go ahead, Laura, did you have a question?
No, I'm looking at I just saw the requirements. They need to be in by September, October,
Mm-hmm.
which is
So that's the building that's
aggressive
up,
for a new building. Yeah.
right. That's the building that's up now. Remember he was talking about it?
Yeah.
And I thought that in the conversation he said it was slated for somebody else, but they hadn't secured that. So it sounds like these folks with their need, if Norton were choose, that would
Yeah,
be
I'm
their
looking right
location.
now. He has down as building number 4. I'm going back to the Jeff meeting to see.
Renee,
if he's-
just timing of all this. I mean, if they're looking for a TIF, that's not going to happen.
I'm not worried about that. That's not, that's not our concern right now.
Building 5, 50% leased, expected to be 100% by completion. Building 4, which is the one he's talking about here, out in the market, expected completion October of 2020.
Okay.
Building number 4 is the one adjacent to the 1, 2, and 3, the retail, expected retail units.
So when you're looking at the new one on Leonard Street, I think Renee said Blue Star. So isn't that the one by Taunton Industrial Park?
No, Blue Star is the one by Leonard. Taunton Industrial is Norton Commerce.
Oh, I'm confused now. Okay, sorry.
Here,
Yeah.
can you see this?
Can you move it a little to your right?
That one?
Yeah.
It's there.
Okay. So I don't mind drafting the letter if you guys want to like bullet point like some key things that we want to include in it. Right?
Yeah. No, that'd be great. I mean, I think some of the things that are there now, I mean, he may put this in there, right? Like the L-Nylum, that there's some, I don't want to say like.
It's in the letter.
Yeah.
If
I
you
know.
read the letter is very, I mean, the letter's not bad.
No, the letter's really good, but how do we, change it a bit?
Should we talk about what the different boards are that would be involved? Is that mentioned? I don't remember if that was mentioned in the letter. I don't have it up right now.
No, there's something in there that talks about experience in working with and approving pharmaceutical manufacturing has been, I think that would come out because from an IDC perspective, that's not something that we've had experience with.
I think what you do is you talk about what we do, first paragraph, and then you lead into experience working, improving. Norton's had a lot of experience working with pharmaceuticals. I mean, it's kind of you're not going to be changing a lot in this letter.
Right.
No, I think I would make reference to the educated workforce being so close to Boston and being a huge college city.
Yeah. I would say too that in respect to the labor force that you're drawing from 2 different states because we have
Yes.
Rhode Island close as well.
Yep.
I think, which is huge. I think while they put stuff in here about, we already support, the pharmaceuticals with L-Nylum, maybe something a little bit different, or maybe we keep that line in.
We should go and pull the Fisher
Right.
Scientific and why they wanted to come here. Use those as our selling points.
The which one, Laura?
The Thermo Fisher, the one that pulled out and moved
Bremer
somewhere
Bio?
else. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They did a presentation to the Board of Selectmen at least, and they had a lot of good points as to why this is a desirable location. Let's use them.
Sure.
Does somebody have that presentation somewhere?
I do actually. It's actually one that I requested specifically to have in PowerPoint. So
Yeah, the select board should have that, definitely.
yeah. Usually we get things scanned and I'm like, I don't want this scanned. I want the file that they sent to us. So
Yep.
I'll send that out to everybody, just so you have it. And then Denise, you can use that.
So the connection to Wheaton College, right? So they made like a little blurb in the letter that I had read, but I don't know if it said enough or if it was clear enough what we want to say about Wheaton College. I mean, do they have internships that would be beneficial? Like, I'm not sure what they do for that, right?
Well, I think any college student would be interested in an internship, especially if there was a, pharma manufacturer right down the road who was looking to have interns available. They
But we
could set
should-
up a program pretty quickly.
Or do
Yeah.
have a big engineering or science presence in that college? I don't really know what their majors are, right?
It's totally
It's a liberal
general.
college.
It's liberal
very
arts, yeah.
liberal.
Liberal art.
Yeah.
So they have, Denise, I actually talked to the VP, maybe student affairs at, surprisingly, one of Spencer's birthday parties that he was invited to. I can reach out to him specifically to see if like he can provide some detail on that. But I know when I talked to him, because I said, we could really use from the perspective of FinCom to Board of Selectmen, like we could use interns to help us do, some of the things that the volunteers just don't have time to do.
Yeah.
And he said that there are a lot of people interested in politics. There are a lot of folks who are,
Yes.
who have that finance background. I can't remember about the science and engineering. I know we talked about like website and not InfoSec, but more technology. But I can ask him. I can shoot him a quick note, and ask him so we can get some maybe a more specific bullet on that.
Yeah, I know. Working for a medical device company myself, we do quite a bit of research and development types of programs with a lot of the area colleges and stuff. But Wheaton is not one that comes to mind as a science-based college, but they still might have a good science program. I don't know.
Yeah.
They have biochemistry, they have astronomy, physics, chemistry. These are majors in
Yeah.
schools. So
I think
no
they do
engineering.
have
Mike?
I'm sorry?
They don't have any engineering.
I do not see an engineering option here.
Okay.
Mathematics, I did not see engineering.
Okay.
I think
I mean-
I'd elaborate a bit on the close proximity to all major highways too, to really talk about, because if you're not familiar with the area, right, again, to talk about access to Boston, access to Providence.
We're the
I
only,
don't know if we'd want to go as far as New Hampshire, but
Yeah, right now we're on 495. We're one of the only towns that have 2 exits on 495, with access to commercial entranceways on both of them. So I mean that's a real, that's really telling type thing. If you go up to Mansfield's, Foxborough doesn't have it. I'm sorry, Plainville, Rentham. Yeah, so I mean I think being located between 24 and 95 along 495 is a huge draw.
And would you say 45 minutes from both Providence to Boston, roughly?
Yeah,
right now, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean we have 45 to Boston, 35 minutes to Providence.
Yeah, 45
I
to
made it to-
Boston's being a little aggressive, I would
I made
think.
it to Boston yesterday in
To
35 minutes at 3:00.
Yeah, I was gonna say Boston. You can't take traffic. Everyone, you can't count the traffic. You count it without traffic.
Why
Even
don't we say
without-
miles? Why don't
Even
we
without
Because
traffic,
how
it's,
attractive is it? 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours, Boston, yes, to go 8 miles, it takes 2.5 hours.
you're
I mean,
gonna
that-
love the Southeast Expressway.
Yeah. The point is that it's easy access. The bad, like what we don't have is what's the word I want? Public transportation, right? Like Mansfield's a drop off, then you have to find some way to get
Well,
over.
there's the train station in Mansfield. It's not far, but
No,
still.
right. But I mean, we can't use that as a point, right? We can use
So
that
we
we
want to,
are in good proximity to.
Close to a train station.
So Denise, Mike sent us, let me try to find the presentation. We're actually, we are not platinum, we're considered a gold standard town for biotechnology.
We are?
Yeah.
Based on what? Is there like where
Hold on a
would
minute.
this-
Yeah, we know we've been recognized for it. Let me give me a minute, I'll find it.
Who knew?
I was gonna say, and who sets the standard? Just so I can kind of cite like a gold standard town for biotechnology based on whatever it's based off of. I don't know.
Oh, mention the crime thing too.
Oh,
The
well,
crime thing.
The low crime.
Number 5 in the state for crime.
I thought
I
we
knew
were
you
number
were going,
2.
Laura.
Yeah, so people would want to live here and work for that company.
Low crime rate, or actually do it in the opposite, right? In the positive.
Yes, no, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Not that, hey, we have crime.
Hey, we don't have much crime.
We have very little. What are we, number 5 in this state?
I really thought we were 2. I know we hit number 1 in one of the things because it came to the selectmen.
Yeah. I mean, overall, the numbers are impressive.
Should I say anything about the other big medical companies that are in the area?
Yes.
Yeah?
It's in theirs. Yeah. I
Oh,
would
it is?
definitely put that in there because I think, Brammer Bio, one of the things that they said is it's like the fact that we supported Alnylam and you kind of make, your, I don't want to say Mecca, but it's kind of like how I refer to the marijuana, right? Like you have specialty, it's not stores. Why am I like at a loss for words tonight?
Well, I mean, even
Specialty companies, medical, marijuana, like they all go together.
right, and even like device or pharma companies that are not necessarily located in. I mentioned the ones that are in Norton for sure, but ones that are close by, like Boston's a huge hub for medical device, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
128
And
specifically.
pharma.
Well, so is Mansfield. They have
Yeah, make reference to 128 and the access to experienced workforce is going to be
Yeah.
all along
Yes.
128.
Yeah.
So you've got the availability of smart kids coming out of Boston for new hires, and you've got, experienced workforce availability in the 128 corridor.
Yeah.
We've got it, Renee. I'm sorry, Denise. I'm going to send you some presentations. Mike had done a lot of this work prior to this. I'm trying to find it, and I think we have some electronically. But
Are you talking about that initial thing that he gave us, Mike, when we first actually brought the IDC back to life?
The PDF,
Yep.
the PDF
Yep.
thing. Oh, I have that too somewhere. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, Mike. I have
So
that.
Norton has been ranked by the MA Biotech Council as a gold level bio community ready community. Municipalities at this level, sites on buildings pre-permitted in biotechnology laboratory and manufacturing use. Municipality has existing buildings in which biotech laboratory or manufacturing activities are taking place. So we are recognized by the Mass Biotech Council as a gold level community ready.
Is there a platinum level? Is gold the best?
No, I'm assuming there's a platinum level, and I bet you Cambridge
Is
is.
platinum more expensive than
I bet
gold?
you Cambridge and Lexington are the
Yes.
only places
Yeah.
that have that. Yeah, this whole presentation.
Are you looking at the Tri-Town Economic Development Forum?
No, it is. I'll tell you 1 second.
This is
It
it.
is
Oh, what happened
2018.
to my screen?
Yeah, I'm looking at the 2018 one.
What's
Looks like
the
that.
name of the association again, Mike? Michael?
I'm sorry.
What's the name of the association? Mass Bio?
Mass Bio.
Look at my screen.
I just wrote down, where did I put it?
Yeah. Oh, look.
Mass Biotech Council.
Yep, Mass
Biotech
Biotech Council.
Council.
It says Norton is bio ready.
Easy permanent pre-application task force. Pre-application task force.
Oh, it's part of MIT.
Where's that task force existing?
This presentation was done before we were back together. There was a task force, guys.
Yeah, sure.
Which consisted of Mike.
That
Mike and
council
Lucia.
is that council is part of MIT, it looks like.
Yeah.
Member directory.
I saw that on here somewhere.
So I would use Mike's presentation because there's some good, there's a picture of a nylon. I could call him nylon.
L. Nylum.
I can't do it right now.
It's old though, huh?
That's old.
Yeah, it's not a presentation I would do.
Massachusetts is bio ready. Ah, okay. So there is platinum, gold, silver, and bronze.
How did we get platinum? Did we send a letter?
Let me look.
No, you said we were gold. Did you say platinum or gold? I thought we were gold.
We are
Yeah.
gold. Platinum municipalities at that level feature gold criteria plus the Board of Health has adopted NIH guidelines for RDNA activity as part of its regulations. Municipality includes building or buildings that are already permitted for biotech uses and have 20,000 square foot or more of available space for biotech uses, or the municipality has shovel-ready, pre-permitted land site with completed MEPA review and municipal water and sewer capacity to meet additional demand. Some of those communities include Andover, Bedford, Billerica, Beverly, Boston, Cambridge, Burlington, Canton, that's a close by one, which is. Franklin is as well. Norwood.
Is Orange still on?
I still see his little box.
There, he's probably just floating in and out.
Yeah.
I'm still here for now.
Yeah.
Lauren, and what Laura was saying about the permitting, or like, has any of that come through the planning board for biotech or medical? What was the language, Laura? Can you repeat that?
Bio-ready community. So Norton is considered a gold bio-ready community on a scale from bronze, silver, gold, and platinum.
On the platinum though, what did it say? There was an item in there about.
Yeah. Municipalities include a building or buildings that are already permitted for biotech uses and have 20,000 square foot or more of available space for biotech use, or the municipality has shovel-ready, pre-permitted land site with completed MEPA review and municipal water and sewer capacity to meet the additional demand.
Does that sound like anything you guys have heard or
No.
no? Okay.
MEPA review. Let's see what that
It
means.
might not even need a permit if it's an existing building, so they may not be.
MEPA is the Mass Environmental Policy Act. Requires state agencies to study the environmental consequences of their actions, including permitting and financial assistance. That review occurs before permitting agencies act to ensure they're fully cognizant of environmental consequences. But that's an or. So you could either have the first two criteria or this third criteria. The first criteria where the Board of Health would have adopted the NIH guideline on RDNA activity as part of its regulations.
Okay.
But still, I mean, out of all of the towns in Massachusetts, there are not very many that have a designation at all. So for
Excellent.
a town of our size, I think gold is probably
Nice find, Mike. Or
fairly
nice memo,
impressive.
Michael left us.
How dare he?
I know. Okay, Denise, I sent you that the draft that they had sent us. It's at the top of your email. Okay. I can read that you're saying I saw it, but I can't tell what else you're saying.
I saw the email. I'll look at it after the call.
Okay. I just flipped it to put it at the top for you.
All right.
Okay, any other points that we'd want to include? I'll follow up on the
Taunton is platinum.
I don't know why I did that.
I was gonna say, who just sighed? Really?
Let's figure out a way we
Hey,
can
my big
platinum.
sister just won something again.
Yeah, Attleboro is gold, we're gold, and it looks like Mansfield is gold. And then south of us, Taunton is platinum, and then there's
Hold on a minute.
a ring around. But in terms of like South Coast, there's not a lot. Like North Shore has a ton. In and around Cambridge has quite a bit, but South Shore, South Coast, not a lot. And based
Not
on this
surprising with
map,
Cambridge.
yeah, but based on this map, there aren't very many communities at all. I would say 25% of the state towns have a designation. So I think we're doing great.
There's always room for improvement.
There is. Well, it seems like if we could get Chris on the,
Yes. We should ask.
and yeah, adopting the National Institute of Health guideline on RDNA activity. Because we've already met the second bullet. That's all we really need.
I think the 2018 Tri-Town Economic, I think that presentation or updating that presentation is a good idea as a whole for us, because I think that really, this is pretty much the framework for telling anything like that letter.
The municipal profile available space one.
Yeah. Yep.
You want to shoot Mike an email about that?
Sure.
If nothing else to get the presentation and see if we can work on it.
Yep. I'll do it right now.
And then we could probably combine that with some of the stuff that Anthony has done too. I didn't know that the NOAA headquarters were in Norton.
Yeah, I didn't realize it's right on the Taunton line, right?
I mean, I knew the weather station thing was.
Well, that's the headquarters.
It's actually at the headquarters?
Yeah, and that's
where our last tornado touched down. And I was driving down South Washington right in the middle of it.
You know, when they do that long range Doppler, I always like to say, that's one of Norton's. It's right there. That's going off in Norton.
Can you do that one more time for us?
The funny thing is I almost did it.
I know. And Massini's just shaking his head. It's like the good old days, isn't it? Okay, anything else on that letter? So thank you, Denise, for offering to write that on behalf of the IDC. I can't hear you again, though.
One of these days I'll figure out the mute button. Yeah, no problem. I will try to circulate something up for the next couple of days.
Awesome.
It's really weird. It's like this light puts a halo on my head.
Yeah.
That's a stretch, but.
Uh-huh. Hey, Renee, quick
Yes.
question. So I'm going to send a link out to the IDC group, the link to the Mass BioReady community rankings.
Mhm.
I was going to copy Michael Units and Chris Zahner and just say, can we get to platinum and how do we do it?
Sure. You want to specify the actual bullet though, probably in the email.
Well, I'm
the
sending
Board
the
of
link
Health
to the
would own.
page where it lists all 4 of them
Okay.
and what the criteria are.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Anything else on that? I haven't heard anything more about the what was Jeff talking about, the high-end liquor store going in there or the license, and I don't believe it's on the agenda tomorrow for the selectmen's meeting. Let me just double check that.
Sorry, quick question, Laura. You saying that?
Renee, it is not on there. I checked today.
Okay.
Laura, you're saying that page with an inquiry about what would take the next level to Mike Units and who?
Chris Donner, because the first bulleted item for platinum, so it looks like you have to meet 2 criteria or this third one, which seems fairly comprehensive. But the first one is the municipality's Board of Health has adopted the National Institute of Health guidelines for RDNA activity as part of its regulations. The second one sounds like we've already met it. The municipality includes a building or buildings that are already permitted for biotech uses and has 20,000 square foot or more of available space for biotech use. So I think we've already met
I don't know
number.
that we've specifically permitted the buildings for those. Like Oren said, if the buildings are there, right? Like,
Well, Alnylam is permitted.
right, but I felt that as available.
No, so building or buildings that are already permitted for biotech use and has 20,000 square feet or more of available space for more biotech, which I think we've met that. It seems to be just the first one.
Okay.
Which, it's just a selling point, but it would put us in rarer company, let's put it that way.
Okay.
Can't hurt to ask. He may come back and just say, it's going to take a, $120,000 project to get it done, in which case, maybe we have to table it for another day.
Right.
But let's ask.
Definitely. Okay, anything more on that topic? Okay, so let's move on to the marijuana bylaw overlay project. So discussion on the meeting last night, the continuation of the public hearing. Let me just give a brief overview quickly, because I know Mike, you were there, and Denise and Laura, but I think Michael, you weren't there. So we literally just went through what the changes were in the bylaw. So we had 8 changes, 3 of which were more significant. One being the new updated language from town council on the vehicular access into a site. She did a great job of drafting that language. The second point, which the board agreed to, was to remove the special permit and site plan approval that we had listed as a requirement for the establishment or MTC owner. So they will continue to just do the special permit and site plan approval on the site, for the site. So we have to make updates to that. I started it, but Denise, just want you to weigh in, and then I'll send the final copy out later.
So wasn't that required by the CCCC? Did we look into that? I know that was a question. Did we look into that further?
Yeah, so I had a discussion with Katie, with our town council on this.
Yeah.
And she said no. So and Denise actually recalled it properly. She thought it came from the model bylaw, and it did.
Okay.
What Katie had said is the reason that they put it in there is primarily so you have more oversight on change in ownership. I mentioned to her in respect to social equity groups or the empowerment groups, that because they're kind of fast tracked through the process, and then when they actually open up their establishment, they're contacted by many investors to essentially sell. So that was one of the reasons why folks had put in the bylaw that the special permit was attached to the owner, so that there was a bit more rigor involved in the transfer of ownership. So the planning board agreed not to have that, but what they would do is, as part of the special permit, the condition of the special permit, that they would put a note in there that if there were any change in ownership above 50%, then they need to be notified. The planning board would need to be notified by the establishment. And that was based on Katie's recommendation as well. She said that, one of the things that you have to consider is Norton's a small town. We don't have a lot of town employees. And so that's just more administrative work if we attach that, the permit and the site plan approval to the person. And then there was a third item. If anybody remember the third item? I have it in one of my notebooks. The third, like I said, there are 8 items, but the third item, the odor mitigation. So I asked her about the odor mitigation again, because that's come up in a couple conversations. And what she said is, she agreed with what Oren said, that, enforcement tends to be difficult. You can do fines of $300 per day, and then you can do, it wasn't an injunction, but you could get a court order essentially to have the business stop operating. What she had recommended was a condition also in the special permit, where the special permit was only good for a predetermined amount of years. So it would be renewed based upon the fact that they didn't receive additional complaints or issues for odor. I think that she provided some language in there. I know Paul's writing that up as well. I mean, that's something, they'll have to decide on the language and the terms. Paul had mentioned something about 5 years. And this was today when we were talking, because he asked me if I had the final available for him. Like personally, in my opinion, I mean, this is a planning board decision, but I'd look at like 1 or 2. Like if there are residents who are having problems repeatedly, I don't think that we should have it be a problem that they have to deal with for 5 years. And that's just my thought, because that's what the HCA is based on, is 5 years.
So Renee, I thought that was to limit the HCA, not the special permit.
No, it's to limit the special permit. So in the renewal process.
Because I think that was, we originally had a limitation on the special permit that ran a certain number of years. I don't remember what it was, but we took it out.
We did.
Okay, just want to make
We
sure.
did. Yep. And I searched for it too, because one of the things that she said, she's like, you can put in there, that you want this special permit only to be good for 5 years. So as we were talking, I was searching it, and it is not in there. So we did remove that section, but this again would be a condition. So, it's something that the planning board would be able to determine as part of it. And it's really only in effect where, they could put it for many other reasons, but the issue is specifically for odor mitigation, right? So she felt that we had sufficient coverage between the bylaw and the HCA language for odor mitigation. And just based on the enforcement, she said that's something that the planning board can do. So we don't find ourselves in a situation where we're constantly getting complaints, kind of like Maureen was talking about last night. Getting complaints and they always have to change their filters or do something like that. So it gives us a little more control or oversight. I really shouldn't call that control.
Yeah, so quick question. I remember we removed it initially because someone from the planning board, I think it was Joe, didn't want the onerous task of having to constantly review the special permit.
Right.
As it comes up for renewal, right? So is there language that we can put in there that says that it will automatically renew unless we give them notice that we're not after the initial?
We don't actually have to worry about that. I mean, it's because for this particular purpose, like for the odor mitigation, the purpose is only if it were a cultivator or a larger, it would have to be a pretty large storage facility, right?
So we're limiting that term to only for odor issues?
No, we aren't limiting anything. How she's recommending that it be dealt with is in the conditions of the special permit, the planning board have the ability to
have the ability to do it. Okay.
Yes, yep, that they could include a condition in a special permit that provides a cultivation permit to be issued for a predetermined amount of years, and then renewal is will be subject to the applicant demonstrating that there have been no complaints or issues with odor during the prior term. Now, the whole no complaints or issues, like no is a pretty defined, item. I think that the language will have to change a bit to be more flexible because there could be a complaint and they can mitigate it quickly and then not have another complaint. So I think that they'll just have to use common sense in the application of that.
Unresolved.
Okay.
An unresolved complaint.
Yeah. I'm sure that they'll do that fine, but that's it. So I'll provide that. I told Paul I have the eight items that we updated from our discussion with them on May 5th. I have them in writing. I just need to make sure that they read appropriately and then send them to him with the updated warrant. And I have to make sure I have to go back and look at the existing article for the uses because I just need to make sure that I'm bolding the correct things that we're changing. You know how you have to show, like for an existing one, you have to show the changes in the warrant. So I know Michelle, I'm sure we'll take a look and make sure that we're right, but I want to try to do that. So that's on my agenda to do tonight. But those were the three big items. The others were just a couple of changes that we had identified or wanted some clarification on. Secondly, Michael, the planning board did recommend it to the town meeting warrant unanimously, both the bylaw and the overlay. So as of this time, it is on the June 25th warrant.
25th or June 25th?
June 27th.
27th. You keep doing that.
I was like,
Because
whoa, did I miss
I'm telling you,
something?
it's twofold. It's because I recommended July 25th and because Mike wanted June 25th initially. He wanted the Thursday. I know. I gotta get that right. Well, if I show up on Thursday and not Saturday, you know why.
So it's June 27th, right?
June 27th, Saturday, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Orin, did you want to add anything to that?
Yes, if you don't mind. I want to just first thank this board. I think you guys have been very responsive, and even coming up with this last proposal in terms of trying to mediate the odor issue. I think I've been working with you. I'm talking now individually, not as a board member, but myself. I think you guys have been very responsive. I think for me, what happened was I saw this similar to the bogs and the solar farm, where everybody, the town itself, joined into this thing saying that sounds great. There's no downside to it, and everybody just jumped on it. And then when it came up to hearings, there really were issues like the sound issues with the inverters that were really kind of important to the neighborhood. Similarly with this, I mean, for me, once everybody got over the, whether marijuana, no marijuana, it seemed very, let's do it. Let's put it where we need to do it. And the issue of odor never really came up in my mind. And I don't know if your board ever looked into it. And I still don't know the real implications for it. I've seen things, I've read some things on it, that it could really be onerous. I don't know how far it goes. I don't know if you have a building, what the distance might be before it would dissipate, so it really wouldn't have an effect. So those are the concerns that I think have been raised appropriately. In response to what the council has suggested for that language, I just point out one thing. One of the problems I think I find that any board has is when they have discretion and they try to apply a standard like that, unless they're applying it across the board, it becomes very arbitrary and you run into litigation. We've been finding that in the town. So if in fact something like that's not embedded in some way in the bylaw itself, for the board to just unilaterally say, we're only going to give you a 1-year license and we're going to put all these conditions on. If they don't do that for every single retail, every single establishment, someone's going to come in and we're going to be in litigation. And I think that's part of the problem in terms of trying to carve something out. And I don't have the answer, certainly, if you look at those two things and maybe you deal with them differently, or you have a setback. Right now, there's no setbacks required other than the normal setbacks. I think it's 10 feet, 30 feet. It's not very far. And I don't know whether that could be accommodated by setbacks or the like. But whatever it is, if it's embedded in the bylaws, it makes it, it's no longer that contest. If you say the board has the right to put these types of restrictions on it, then we're not pulling it out of our hat or somewhere else, some other part of our body, and applying it, to this case and not to some other case. I think that was the concern that I think, and I don't have the answers, but, and again, I think it's a good step, and I think it does certainly, if in fact it's implemented like that it's a year, and if there's any complaints, again, what's a complaint, who complains, how often, that's at least a solution, and it may not be satisfactory to everybody who's lasting that year if it's going to be implemented. I don't know that it will.
Right. Right. And I think, up to this point, like I've only heard odor specifically being brought up with cultivation facilities, and typically the larger ones, right? Like, we've talked to some people who are looking for smaller ones. I know, we've had some presentations where they've even, Alyssa's on the phone, like even in hers, they talked about, where they would actually store the marijuana, that it would have some additional controls for the smell, basically to help, the abutters to the property that they were in. So, while like town council listed specifically for cultivation, I think the fact that it's not in the bylaw does give you some discretion in enforcing that in a manufacturing facility or distribution facility if you think that might be a problem. I haven't heard that it is, and the fact that it hasn't been around that long, the focus has been on like the big, what's the word, like the big visibility issues, right? Like the traffic initially with the retail dispensaries, the odor with these big cultivation facilities. So, I think it gives us some leeway in applying it, as the situation changes. She didn't recommend that it be in the bylaw, so I don't know if we'd want to go back to do that, but I kind of like it as a condition because it gives you guys, not you or in the individual, but the planning board gives you some discretion in how to actually list that. And Paul and I were talking about today too, because I said, is there a system that you guys use that like tells you, that reminds you that you've put these conditions in and people have to come back? And he said there wasn't, but he was going to have a conversation because now that's with the e-permitting now, that there may be some opportunity there too. So it might actually create, a more efficient process. So, we've in this particular area, we've asked a couple times and we've done some additional research, and I don't know what else we could do, other than having that condition in there to really see a company and, what happens if they come into town. We've only talked to officially the IDC, I believe the one cultivator from Maine, Casco Botanicals. and they were looking for the 20,000 with potential growth. I think up to 100,000 square foot facility was based on what they were looking at in, Farmington. Is that a real place? Was it
Framingham?
No,
You-
Farmington,
Farming-
Connecticut.
You're aware there's a second part of the Condyne property that's probably over 200,000 square, more than two, maybe several hundred. A big portion of that property is yet to be developed or permitted. And that property abuts Birch Street and those other streets that are private homes with some pretty large facilities.
It does, and those are actually the properties right now that have the debt covenants that they can't have marijuana in.
They
mean,
can't
not
use,
saying
put
that-
anything there.
Yeah, not saying that that wouldn't change long term.
Those are
But
not,
they
the
can go in the other industrial park.
yeah,
Right.
the covenants are on the buildings they're building now, 1, 4, and 7. They're not debt covenants on the back parcel. There's no permits on the back parcels.
No, there are, I think it's opposite, Orrin. Or can you check your notes?
Yeah.
No, actually, Orin is right. So as of right now, so phase 1 is buildings 1 through 7. Out of those buildings, 2 and 3 are allowing some sort of marijuana facility. And according to Jeff, it would probably be retail only based on the space that's available. 1, 4, 5, and 7 have debt covenants. Buildings 8 through 12 are phase 2. And they probably do not have their financing fully lined up yet.
Yeah, I understand the other thing you have is we kept on hearing, I've heard several times, whenever we talk about nursery schools, that that's leasing and you can always change that. The same is true, probably even more so with debt covenants. If a property is in danger,
Right.
the debt covenant doesn't impress me very much, certainly.
No, I know, because there's always a possibility.
So,
Yep, I agree.
okay, so that's not the issue. The other thing that was just kind of interesting that I wanted to, I remember you kept on talking about there were some facilities that you were talking to that wanted to have retail, but like a backdoor cultivation as a part of their operation.
Hmm.
And the only thing I was looking at is if you look at lot 250 on East Main Street, that's the one behind Dunkin' Donuts. There is a property, there's a portion of it, actually that lot 0. I think the front end is basically wet, but the back end where they used to store trucks. And that's an area that abuts directly 274 and Red Mill Village. And that's an area that I would see that they could come in and say, we want to put a greenhouse there to supplement the retail side of it. And I think that's exactly what you guys have been talking about. And something like that is something that I think would be kind of problematic for that location.
That would be 2 different sites, right? In that particular instance?
No, it's the same owner.
Lauren, you're talking about for my clarification, right behind where PBK is, the gate behind there that stores trucks and gravel and all that, correct?
They used to store trucks. They can't store the trucks, so they've been removed. But yes, that area back there.
Okay.
And it's just sort of like the way you were talking, it sounded that would be the type of facility that someone could actually go in and put a greenhouse. I mean, when you were looking at that site, I thought you think it was basically going to be retail. But even something like that, if you had a setback requirement, maybe they couldn't put that greenhouse there or something like that. Those are the types of things that, looking at it from where don't you want to have it, as opposed to, well, we can permit it by discretion, and that just relying on that discretion is there. I found it's very hard to implement it within this town. There's a lot of pressure not to do it because you have what you're doing. I don't blame business; it should be there, but that discretion, if it's really required, you have 3 people, you have 5 people show up at a hearing, and you have somebody coming in with a lot of money, spending a lot of time, and having a lot of resources. It makes it very difficult for that person to really argue effectively to protect themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the challenge. And I agree, I don't have the answers. And I think you guys have been addressing it. You've been trying to address it. But I think that's one thing I think the town needs to just keep in mind, that its ability to do that is important, and it has to be balanced.
Yeah.
Could I offer?
Go ahead. No, please, Laura.
I was just going to offer one thing, especially with an undeveloped piece of property like that. If there was a cultivator who were to come in and have an interest in it, I think it would be very important for the town to vet them to make sure that it was an experienced cultivator that had built cultivation facilities in other areas, because, you know, we do hear about the ones that are generating some odor nuisances, but we don't know really what the circumstances are. Were they existing buildings that, you know, weren't properly retrofit for the type of cultivation and manufacturing that they're doing? You know, was the age of the building a factor, the ventilation of the building a factor? I would think that somebody coming in wanting to create a new cultivation facility, you know, I would hope that had experience in it, had done its research, and had some proven, demonstratable and proven methods that, you know, have been built and tested and demonstrate to be not a nuisance to the community in general, regardless of the distance.
Does cultivation go through a host agreement as well, or is it just retail?
All of them do.
All of them do?
Yes.
I mean, I think the fact that it does go through, you know, the select board, I think that gives the people that live around there another shot at being identified and having the town having to weigh that concern, and that's helpful. Right.
We want good partners. Yeah, we're not just going to let anybody in.
I think that's helpful, but they need to be aware of, you know, I know population here, population down on Burke Street have no clue about odors of marijuana. They just have no clue about how it might impact them. And I don't have myself. And so to just say we're going to be doing this and send out a notice and not really vetting that and saying these are the concerns and making sure people are aware of that and they can express it, you're going to get very little pushback if they don't really know what the issue is. And that's part of the problem. They can't
Right.
with that.
And on the HCA, like the requirement for the state is only that the retail dispensaries and the MTCs actually go through that process. But we put in language specifically for all establishments to do it, and we had council draft. Like there's a section in there that if you're not a cultivator or manufacturer, you take it out. If you're not a retailer, you take it out, right? So that we're getting it from everybody. And then part of that too is that they have to have a public information session on their location. Right. So those two things. And I mean, I can't imagine that, at least right now, the selectmen would look at an HCA and not ask for the opinion of the IDC too. So I think that subcommittee, while it's only available, you know, specifically for the application process for the retail establishments, that it can't be utilized to help do some of that due diligence. So, I mean, that's our hope, you know, that's what we're looking at now. I mean, the execution of that in 5 years could be very different. I think the environment's going to be very different in 5 years. Like, you know, the HCAs may not even exist. So we'll have to figure out, well, what do we do?
There'll be a lot more experience. There'll be a gold standard to to show, airtight, or I don't know what the word is to make sure that the building is self-contained and odors are not escaping. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, you hear about a few bad apples, but I mean, if you look at the number of cultivators that are in this state that are operating without incident and neighbors don't even know they're there, that's something you need to take into consideration as well. At the end of the day, a cultivation company does not want to come in and, you know, be a nuisance to the community in which it's residing. They really prefer to kind of stay below the radar.
Well, I think having gone through the gauntlet of other committees will also give the planning board more ability to exercise that discretion in terms of support, have more support in exercising that discretion, which will make it more difficult to overturn. So I think that's helpful.
Yeah. So it's the balance of how do we keep ourselves attractive and not overcomplicate the process, but at the same time protect the town.
Well, the one problem you have with the 1-year term is if I'm going there and I'm going to invest a lot of money, and there's a company want to go there, it's saying, okay, tomorrow somebody's going to down the hall going to complain and I'm going to be thrown out. So
yeah,
that's the other side of the coin.
I mean, I threw out 1 year. You know, you guys could say 3 years or 2. I think the other thing is the language has to be, you know, something about a viable or, you know, I mean, there's language right now in I think it's in the bylaw, right, with the building inspector or his or her delegate.
Or-
that they detect the odor as well. Okay, hold on, let me look at the email, because I think Katie actually put it in her email.
I think he's the arbiter. He has to go in and he has to go in.
Yeah, so the bylaw right now sets a standard. It says no detectable odor at the exterior is determined by the building inspector or his or her designee. So that's what's in there now. I would think in the condition of the special permit that, you know, when you talk about the applicant demonstrate there haven't been any complaints or issues, that there has to be some sort of a checks and balance. I don't know, you know, that's.
How do you get by that? So if you just say, if I change that and say the complaint by, you know, 3 times by the occupant, how can I overturn what's in the bylaw? Where I have to basically, the building inspector has to go out there, and if he's busy, he doesn't go out there when the odor's, it's gonna be that's the issue. And I guess the 1 year, 3 years is how long the planning board and the selectmen want to hear from the neighbors. If there's
Right.
an issue, so.
Well, it's again, like how, you know, how long should somebody have to put up with that if it is an issue?
Agreed.
Right.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, like, if that means that if we put a year in there and it means that we're not attractive for a cultivator, then you know what, we probably don't want you here because you're not willing to invest the money to make sure that it's not going to be a nuisance to the neighbors.
Right, you're not confident in your mitigation plan and we don't want you.
And I'm fine with that.
Support, I don't think we have a problem. I mean, and that's the issue. If the town supports it in that way, then I think that's a very good argument to make to people and to give them a comfort level that they're not going to be hurt. Their value of property is not going to be affected.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Sure. I lost my agenda. Anything else from the meeting that you guys wanted to talk about?
No, but on the same topic, I had a question.
Go ahead.
Did we already present, didn't you and Sandy present to FinCom? Did FinCom recommend it as well? I don't remember now.
So they didn't
Was-
vote on it. Neither did the Board of Selectmen.
Okay,
But they didn't have any, you know, they had some questions. There was, I believe the only concern at FinCom was the map. And that was actually where we had the feedback, I believe, that the watershed layer was diagonal as well as similar to the overlay. So we took that
Yeah.
out. So I'll have to, I know they're meeting right now. I'll have to send a separate email. I can send it to Bill to send to FinCom, just to show the new maps and then the updated bylaw. So they have the most recent. But
okay.
I'm going to leave the meeting. But
Procedurally though, Renee, they weren't recommending it, correct?
who?
FinCom.
FinCom made no vote when we presented. I'm sorry,
Okay.
Orin, did you say you're leaving?
I'm leaving the meeting, but I want to again thank you guys for your service and your cooperation putting this together.
No, thank you, Orin. Appreciate all your help.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Orin. We appreciate your
Thanks,
feedback.
Lauren.
Have a good night. Yeah, so FinCom, so while we presented, they weren't, I mean, they hadn't voted on anything at that point. And I know, you know, one of the things that's been talked about over and over again is having a FinCom joint selectmen's meeting and joint planning board where appropriate, so that we can talk about the issues and then have a vote, and so they're more informed. Like I think their perspective at this point, especially after last year, is they want to know what the Board of Selectmen think before they vote on all these items, specifically that aren't financial related.
Okay,
And I
Very
don't
good.
know when that's going to happen, because I think the only thing on the agenda tomorrow is to potentially vote on the budget. It doesn't talk about anything else for the warrant. So
for Board of Selectmen.
yes, sorry
Okay.
for the
Okay.
selectmen's meeting.
There's not much. There's not much on here.
No, a couple things I think repeat actually. So overall, I mean, we had, just to review quickly, let me get my right file here. We had, from our last meeting, the last time that we met, you know, we had feedback from the Kingsbury Hill Condominium Trust, which Maureen talked to last night. And again, the primary issue in that was the odor. And then we had almost the exact same letter submitted from Red Mill Village as well. And Gary Perkins was on the call. You know, I'll respond to both of them and certainly make sure when we do our info session that they are aware of the meeting date and time so that they can attend. And then there was Wendy talked last night. This was the only other one. Wendy Roberts, I believe.
Yep.
And her concern was with the parcel at 56 Mansfield Avenue. So it is the last parcel within the commercial village property that abuts the residential.
Can we talk about that one? Can we bring that up? Because I am clearly mistaken as to what I thought we talked about at the first public hearing. I thought that entire parcel, which is designated as 0 Mansfield Ave, the triangular one that Wheaton owned,
So you're talking about across the street. So
Yes.
that's not Wendy's. That's separate
No.
from Wendy's.
No, I'm talking about the one across the street.
Okay.
One
Yep.
that butts Reservoir and Mansfield.
Yes. And Renee, you saw we got a new inquiry on that particular property today from a Cheryl Senior.
I did not. Did something come to us in email?
Yes, and it came to all of us directly to the IDC.
Okay. And Denise, just noting that Sandy's just joined us
Yep.
for the meeting
So
minutes.
do I just put the time next to her? Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Laura,
7:51.
did you see that was sent today?
Yes.
Today?
I have about 80 emails from today.
Yeah, it came in. Hang on, I'll read it. It's
The follow-up to planning board meeting?
no, I already moved it. Give me a second.
If it went to my town email, I didn't get it.
It did. It went to your email address that would have been on. It looks like she pulled it directly off the website.
Yeah.
So the email states, so it's Cheryl Ann Senior from 169 Reservoir Street.
See it. Okay.
She said the subject line is MJ overlay on Reservoir Street. Please remove the section of the proposed overlay district that abuts south end of Reservoir Street. This is the Norton entrance to the Grove, and historic and forever residential area on beautiful original street skirts the reservoir. There are no commercial businesses on Reservoir Street. There are examples of every type of house constructed in the town of Norton on it, including one from the late 1700s and an historic cemetery. Kids and family walk and bike. Please keep the overlay to Route 123 at the Easton and Attleboro ends and 140 at the Mansfield and Taunton ends, where easy access and commercial enterprise exist, and you will have the greatest chance of success. So,
Did everybody get that? I see it's addressed to everybody, but did everybody
I
actually
did
receive
not
it?
receive that.
So do you go into your town email, Michael? Here, I'll just forward it to the group.
And I don't have a town email, Renee.
You do.
okay, you do.
You definitely do.
She
That's
sent
where
it
she
to
got
us.
your email.
When did I get a town email?
Would have been shortly after I became chair.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
everybody
going to
got
send
it.
it to the
I
group.
guess I need a town login then. I guess that's the next
Yeah,
question.
you definitely do.
Yeah. So I think this can be easily addressed, or not easily addressed, but I think this can be addressed and maybe her concerns assuaged when we talk to her specifically about the egress having to come from Mansfield Avenue, and that there would not be, and the area along Mansfield Avenue, it's directly across from Mass Gas, it's directly across from Produce Barn, a liquor store. So, it is in an already, it would be in within existing commercial businesses. And I don't necessarily think it would impact Reservoir, especially given the size of the parcel and the water running through the parcel. I suspect they would, having access from 123, is it 123 there or 140? 140 only. I don't even think they would know that a business was there and would not impact the residential neighborhood. For what it's worth.
So I'm gonna share that portion of the diagram.
Yeah, can we talk about that? Because I'm confused. I thought that particular parcel was being switched to residential.
So based on the information that they had from the meeting where this was changed.
Yeah.
Zoom in slightly. So the difference is I don't know if I sent you this email. I thought that Paul had sent it to all the IDC. So one of the differences is where the parcels were split. they actually changed the marijuana overlay, right? So this is an entire parcel here. Previously, we had the overlay extending all of this section here, right? But this showed residential, this showed village commercial. So we always said it had to have both, which it still has to have both. So if there's a zoning change, the overlay will still require both criteria. But because they split it, it looks a little different now. So based on the information that they had from the meeting and what the SERPED and individual did is she broke where that parcel was, right? So while when we initially talked about it, we thought it was going to be halfway through this particular parcel. It's not. It's only this tip here, and
Okay.
then this parcel here.
I
So
could've
that's
sworn-
based on the information they had from the town meeting.
Okay. But
That
I
was
thought Greg
different than the
Vincent-
information provided that day, like the way that gentleman described it in the open thing. He was saying that it was divided right in the middle.
Right.
He said from that point all the way up to that other corner.
Yeah, and that's what I thought too. And so I missed it initially too, because I was expecting to see more, and because our previous overlay took the entire parcel
Yeah.
where they changed it now.
Yeah. Sorry, Laura.
No, that's okay. I must have completely misunderstood because I was assuming, I thought Greg Vincent's complaint was this parcel was taken out of the village overlay zoning change, and it should have
It remained residential.
remained residential.
Yep.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and it was only this portion, apparently, according to the details in the meeting minutes. So, I mean, so if you remember, this over here was
Yeah.
previously village commercial. So they made all the changes that they had the documentation for. If there's anything more in this, it's not something that we would have access to, but it does show that this portion of Reservoir Street, right, is village commercial.
Right, but they
But the
can't
property address is on
Mansfield Ave.
Mansfield.
Right, and if a marijuana establishment wanted to go on that lot, he could not access it from Reservoir. The access would have to be from
Correct.
Mansfield Ave.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think
And
if
if
we
that's-
explain that to Cheryl, I would hope that would be satisfactory, considering
Mhm.
there's literally 2 liquor stores across the street.
Right.
And in
And
fact,
I don't know, she mentioned a sidewalk in there.
realistically,
Where's there a
that's-
sidewalk on one?
It's on Reservoir. She's talking about her entire piece was in reference to Reservoir, not Mansfield Ave.
there's no sidewalk there
On Reservoir?
on that reservoir part of reservoir. No way. It's a very
Mike?
Hang on, let me go back and read her email again.
reservoir. Right. I think it's Elm Street is where the sidewalk, if I'm not mistaken.
So hang on, let me see what she says here, because she makes reference to no commercial businesses included. Kids and families walk and bike back and forth from school in
Yes.
the Wheaton and Yell Ball Field playground from Reservoir to the sidewalk on Route 140. Okay.
Okay.
So the sidewalk's on the, isn't it, Mike, it's not on your side, right? It's on the opposite side of 140? Massini? We don't hear you.
Other
You're
side,
talking.
you are right. It's not on the left-hand side. It's not, it's on the heading towards Taunton side, not heading towards Mansfield side. It's on the Mass Gas side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And there's no sidewalk on Reservoir either?
There is no sidewalk on Reservoir.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood that. Okay.
Either Massini can't hear us or he didn't hear the question.
I don't know.
Mike, did you hear us?
Renee, you screen sharing? I'm not seeing anything.
Yeah,
Oh,
you're,
I was screen
I have a
sharing
black
to see-
screen.
Sorry, it's because I picked up something over it. Yeah, 1 second, Laura. Can you see it now?
Now I can, yes. Thanks.
So can I make a suggestion about, like, we're getting a lot of the same kinds of, objections in terms of kids walking to school, and seem to be getting a lot of those same pieces there. Okay. I mean, I know we sort of started doing it with the PowerPoint, but can we lay out a specific list of the criteria that we used and why these don't fall into those categories and why they are included in our overlay?
I think we can do that in the PowerPoint. I think too, one of the things that we want to do was create an FAQ, right, based on the feedback that we were getting. So I think it's a perfect opportunity to do that.
I think we also should probably think about maybe getting some pictures of some real life places so that people can understand that they're not like these horrendous looking things that are horrible to walk. Like I think the vision in people's heads are worse than what the
Right.
reality is, right?
Yeah, and that was something we were going to do as part of the info session,
Right.
right? But I think we can make some changes to that PowerPoint. I think that we can do an FAQ.
Yeah.
That is really just a snippet of the PowerPoint to say, you know, this is the criteria, this is what's in the bylaw, like how do you address odor mitigation, right? And we can say, well, in the bylaw we have this, in the HCA we have this. Additionally, you know, the planning board can put a condition on the special permit, right? Like so that we're, I mean, those have been the things. The odor mitigation, I've only heard walking twice. We initially heard, and Denise will remember this, I have absolutely no idea what that is on Denise's background though.
It's funny, she's got the ocean background, but it's picking up some kind of picture at her house. It's kind of doing a double effect, so it looks like she's got these back windows.
So Denise, if you remember, like one of the comments for Roach Brothers is that, you know, the kids would start hanging out there and, you know, people who smoke pot would be hanging out by the, you know, hanging out in the parking lot and stuff like that. Like, and that's not, you know, that's
not the reality of what goes
right.
on, right? Yeah.
Right.
That's like saying people that buy liquor at liquor stores just hang out and drink there. It's just not.
No, I think that's just me.
We heard that same argument yesterday about people walking to, you know, on their way to school, that they'd be passing by these places. We got an email as well, so I think that's a common thing that keeps coming up that would be to address and to say, you know, kids walk by every area in town. That can't be one of our criteria because there's no place. Kids are walking from school to school from every place, you know.
Yeah, they're not going to
places from other places. We're not going to say, well, you know, any place that kids walking, there can't be a marijuana shop. That would just eliminate the entire town.
Well, and it certainly doesn't expose them to anything, right? So it's like it's just walking by a business. They can't purchase anything.
Right.
They can't. And you know, one of the things that the CCC did as well, like Katie and I were talking about this, she's like, there are so many requirements and so strict for a retailer to have. I mean, you can't have signage, you know, you can't have any sort of like play on words. In respect to what's showing, they're very specific on what can you show from a perspective of what you're selling, and all the windows have to be tinted so you can't see the merchandise from outside the store. Right. So you would have no idea that you're walking past it or what's inside. And since if you're not 21, you can't be allowed inside, you're really going to have no idea what's there.
So I think those are the things we have to kind of show people too, right?
Right.
It's like show them what one really looks like. Maybe even like a short video clip showing people like coming and going, like they're not hanging out, milling around in the parking lot, like partying it up.
Yeah. So what are we going to do? Some road trips on some other establishments?
We'll have to go in separate cars because it's a social
Funny
distancing,
thing
but
is
I'll go.
in this area, there really aren't some good looking ones. Like the place over in Eastern Brockton Line, it's not a good looking.
Somerset.
The Solar Therapeutics one was nice looking. Even the renderings that Alyssa had provided were nice.
Right.
Yeah, I think the renderings would be nice to see.
Well, and that's something that I want for the, you know, like part of the pub. Like I want to put that stuff in the public information session.
Yeah.
Because I think it makes sense. You know, what is it? I mean, the other thing too is like initially, you know, it's the same. One of the themes has come up with traffic. So both of those letters included traffic, although they focus more on the odor mitigation. But I mean, traffic has come up too. So we can talk about, you know, the traffic mitigation plan, like things like that have to happen, queuing of the customers and having a plan for that. So I think we could put all those details together. Like, again, nothing's going to be foolproof, but I mean, there's going to be there's always going to be somebody that's unhappy. Like, I understand that, but if we can approach it where we're trying to do the best, there's always a risk that, you know, it's not going to work in our favor, but that doesn't mean that we don't come back and tweak things either. But I think there's a big difference between, so who was telling me, who said Taunton opened? Somebody told me today, or not Taunton, Attleboro
Attleboro, I
on
think
Monday.
open. Yeah.
Right. Did we hear a peep about that versus when the first two opened about the lines of traffic and everything else? Who told me about that? Somebody sent me a text. Was it somebody in this group?
I didn't even know they opened.
They were supposed to open right before the quarantine.
Oh, Jack told me, and I said, you know what? I'm surprised that Laura didn't pick up on this. She always gets me.
I didn't, yeah, no, I didn't hear anything about it.
It was in the Sun Chronicle. There was an article about it, and it didn't mention anything about there being an issue with anything really. It was actually just a comment that they had almost gone bankrupt waiting for it to be able to open. That was
Yeah. So it's Nova Farms.
Yeah.
It's Attleboro's first shop, first retail dispensary.
I have no plans this week, and I can put out a list of all the places to drive around.
Sure. Did everybody drive around and list out their flat Stanleys?
No, what is that?
I missed the. I may have missed the submission. Flat Stanley. Parks and Rec was doing. They put 20 flat Stanleys around town. We only found 3 one night.
I did not follow that. I missed it.
What is this? I've never.
Flat Stanley.
You gotta have little kids.
No, Flat Stanley is for adults too.
It is?
Yeah.
I expect
Maybe I'll bring
anybody running for selectman would understand what a flat Stanley is, Mr. Cool.
Sorry, Mr. Mancini. By the way, Denise, just make sure that you don't go to Nova Farms and then try to flat Stanley, okay? Thanks.
I was gonna say I can bring a flat Renee with me and take pictures with it.
Yes. Yes. Can you do that?
I still don't know what a flat Stanley is, and I'll have to offline it afterwards. So.
Okay.
Just Google it on Facebook or go to Parks and Rec. You'll see the flyer that Sharon did. Flats, how do you not know about? And all the teachers now, like Spencer has a flat Mrs. Falvey, and Quinn has her flat Miss Debbie and Miss Shawnee. So we have 3 flats right now of teachers.
The letter carrier?
The letter
No,
carrier?
it's like you put a picture of someone's face on a popsicle stick.
It's like a laminated, colored, like think of it like your own, not an emoji. What's it called when you have your own avatar? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like your own avatar that you color and then you
Oh,
laminate. There you go.
Oh my God.
What is that?
Who is that?
Is that
My
you?
buddy, that's Flat Rennie.
Flat who?
That's my buddy. He's an action hero. I keep him in my office with me.
I am
Mike
so
Massini,
lost,
the next
right?
selectman.
This conversation, I'm lost.
Anyway, we totally
So
got off topic.
is Stanley a book character?
You know, I don't know. When my nieces were in school, they had a Flat Stanley program. So like they sent Flat Stanley up here and we went to different places. Like Plymouth
I just
Rock and
assumed
stuff
it was
that.
like a character in a book and people kind of
It
carrying
might
it
be.
from there.
Kind of like a Where's Waldo? It
Yeah.
could be. I don't
Yes.
really know.
A kid's book, yeah.
Flat Stanley Week. Where's Flat Stanley?
When do you have to submit that? Can you tell me from the flyer?
I'm sorry?
What does it say on our flyer when you had to submit them? I think I may have missed it.
It's over. Sorry, I'm not even at the flyer. Sorry.
Oh, forget
All
it
right,
then.
let's carry on.
Useless. Okay.
Thanks.
Sure. So the second item, the bylaw, the application process update. So the bylaw, we know final changes will happen tonight. I'll shoot those off to Paul and Michelle. I'll copy you guys on it, and then we should be good to go for the bylaw. I don't anticipate any other changes. The application process, I asked Katie about it when we were on the phone. She did not have a chance to look at it. Katie's actually leaving KP Law as of this Friday, so I need to reach out, take that email and reach out to another one of their attorneys that is going to pick this up. So hopefully I'll have some information back by our next meeting. The question is still unanswered, and I totally forgot to ask her when I was talking to her about whether or not we can engage in an HCA for a property that is not yet zoned through the overlay. So more on that as I get information. One of the things I wanted to stress too, you know, we were talking last night a lot about the odor mitigation, and one of the things that Paul and I had talked about before the meeting and then today, you know, we still have this risk. Like while there are people who are expressing, you know, their opinions or like this particular email that we got about, you know, removing some of the properties, the issue that we face right now, it's twofold, right? We don't have a bylaw at all for marijuana establishments. So we have, if somebody goes up in front of the planning board right now, they really don't have any sort of guidance other than what's been given to them from the state on where things can go. Like it's anywhere within industrial, but they're really, you know, they're going to be put in a very difficult conversation or difficult situation, especially if the Board of Selectmen, you know, engage in an HCA. Now it's going to the planning board with no bylaw behind it. So, you know, while I understand the concern of folks, I mean, you know, it's, you know, more, and I was thinking about it when Maureen was talking, but I didn't get into it so much because you know, we've talked about this at our previous planning board presentations, but if, you know, if for whatever reason this particular article didn't pass, we're in a worse spot because at this point, any cultivation facility can go in an industrial area. We have no mitigation or controls in place to, you know, limit them or have oversight or whatever it might be. So, you know, that's one of the messages that, and I say that because I saw the next item is on the information panel. It's one of the messages I think we really need to be clear about on the information session to say, look, right now we have nothing, right? We have nothing. And while you may not agree with all of the components of this, if we don't move forward, then we'll continue to have nothing. And things can go in with no controls, and we have no, you know, no recourse if we have odor mitigation or if there are traffic issues or, you know, anything else that happens. So I think that, you know, I just want people to understand the fact that right now we have such a big gap because the only thing in our bylaw is for an MTC. We have nothing for the establishments, and nobody at this point has approached us for a medical treatment center. It's all been marijuana establishments. So, you know, I just want to make sure, like, when we think about the info session and what we want to present, that I know it's in the presentation now, like it starts off with where are we as a town, what are the risks? But I think that's an important factor because if it doesn't pass, it doesn't pass. People can still come into town in industrial areas. So it, you know, it would be at Blue Star, it would be down at Norton Commerce Center, it could be at any of the other ones, with the exception of the one that's too close to the school. But we really, you know, we're limited then in how that special permitting process is going to happen. Because all we've said is you need a special permit, that's it. So I just mentioned that because I think it's a big thing that we haven't really talked about specifically in the past two public hearings because the planning board understands that.
Yeah, and Renee, to your point, I agree with you. This is purely, I mean, this isn't saying this, we recommend one of these places. This is preparing the town. So we're prepared to protect ourselves in case a company comes in that wants to come here. And I don't know how to build that message, right? I mean, how do we say that? I mean, is that, I think we did do that in at least the first public session. We were talking about preparing the town for this in case we are approached there, where right now it's just industrial and there's no guidance at all.
Yeah, I mean, we may mention it. I know we talked about it more when we first presented to the planning board and to FinCom and the Board of Selectmen, right? Because we really went by the presentation. So I think we need to, you know, and Wendy brought up a good point about she didn't have any backstory on, you know, where the bylaw was and what the actual process was, because the public hearing is not focused on that. It's focused on, you know, it's not focused on the overall process and the things that we've done. It's focused on the bylaw and the zoning changes. So, I mean, I just mentioned it because I think, you know, back to Sandy's point too, right? Like, there are a lot of things that we've done and we've been really specific about doing it, but we need to get better about communicating that as we like move to the next phase.
Yep.
Well, I wouldn't say there's no controls right now because we still have the HCA, we still have a special permit. I would say we're adding to the controls and we're making it a more stringent process. But I think to your point that people just don't understand the steps and the different, you know, they hear one piece of it and they don't realize how that all fits into the bigger picture, that there is a HCA required, there is a special permit required, that, you know, all of these pieces have to happen. And even just the state regulations, right? And so that whole process of how many other pieces beyond just what's in our bylaw are already existed, you know, that are out there. I don't think people understand that at all.
Yeah, no, I don't, I agree.
And it comes a perfect point of some of the complaints that we're seeing on some of these letters. It's just because we've overlaid a zone we've overlaid a zone doesn't mean it's going to go there. And some of these letters, I get the sense they think, oh, you've already authorized something to go there. No. There's a lot of checks and balances that have to happen before something goes in a certain location. So.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I don't know how best to depict that unless we just kind of write the process out, right, from beginning to end. And which might actually be good too, just to have like on the planning website,
I think
you know, for
I-
applicants.
I think I stole one off of somebody else's site at some
Didn't you-
point.
No, we
I'm
don't
looking.
steal, we reallocate, Laura.
Yes, I'm repurposing.
Laura, didn't you, what was that one that you had, which had the whole flow process?
It was a very nice flow
Yeah.
chart. I'm looking.
Yeah, that was
Give me a minute. It was some other
Natick.
town.
Was it Natick? Was it?
I don't remember what town. I've looked at so many, but it was
I
a
feel like it
very
was Metro
nice.
West.
It was
Yeah.
a very nice flow chart of what is entailed in the process, but it was more for the point. It was more from the point of view of the applicant, like what happens
Mhm.
Yeah.
to come into the town.
I think I took a picture of it.
I'm not going to be able to find
Yeah, I'm
it.
thinking more just even at each level, the controls that are in place at each level. Like what does
Yeah.
the state require? You know, what does the HCA require? What does all these pieces that have to all come into play?
Right. I agree.
I got it right here. It is New Bedford. It was City New Bedford.
What's New Bedford?
It was the flow chart for New Bedford.
Now, when I put that Boston spin on it, it sounds silly, doesn't it? But didn't I say it the same way? I saw Denise laughing.
You had a more of a, yeah, it was, but it
Medford?
was how you would say Medford.
It was like, yeah, she would say Medford.
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 It's like Peabody. It's not Peabody. It's Peabody.
Leominster.
Yeah. Hey, we still have a couple of those that the first place, right, that had the retail dispensary. We still can't pronounce that one.
Leicester.
Leicester.
Ah,
I was
see, you
gonna say
guys.
lemon. I was gonna say Leominster.
It's Leicester.
It's
It's
Leicester.
Leicester. It's Leicester.
Is it Leicester?
It
Oh,
is
it's Leicester.
It is Leicester.
But it has so many more vowels.
Well, it's like Worcester.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah.
I think, to your point though, Renee, I think this piece that Laura repurposing, I think is a great piece for what we're trying to, the message that we're trying to.
Yeah. I think we need to get that in the presentation. I mean, again, we didn't, you know, when that presentation was first developed, we had absolutely no idea about an application process, right? We knew, yes, we had an HCA, not specifically that, like what it was going to encompass at that point. You know, we just had the template that was provided in like 2012 from town council. So we definitely need to update that. So I guess, you know, let's think about this too. So if we want to do an information session, right? It is, what is today? May 27th. Like assuming, and I'm just, again, it's assuming that this were presented at the June 25th meeting, which I don't think that it would be. But if it were, like, at what point would we want to have this information session? Because we'll have to coordinate.
You don't think
with,
this is gonna, just for your point, Renee, you don't think this is gonna make it onto the 25th meeting?
7th.
So 27th.
27th.
See, now I have everybody's going to show up on the wrong date. Or people aren't going to show up at all because it's in June. You know, like one of the things that we talked about from the selectman perspective is limiting the warrant to what is absolutely necessary and
Yeah.
the budget items. This is certainly, you know, it has economic impacts, but it's also a controversial issue. So, you know, from my perspective, having it in June, I'm gonna say, like me personally, I'm gonna side with life safety, and I'm gonna want to keep those numbers down. And
Okay.
I would probably not recommend that this be moved on the June 25th meeting. If we move the meeting to July, I know. If we move the meeting to July, you know, depending upon how the next and certainly phase 3 occur, I think that the risk is somewhat reduced. And, you know, I'd have to see obviously what the environment look like, you know, in a month, but I would have more appetite to put it on a July or August meeting than I would in June. That's my personal opinion, because I don't think that, especially those people who are against it, right? I mean, we've heard from a lot of older folks, seniors, and I wouldn't want to put them, like, I wouldn't want to make them feel like, you know, they're risking their health to come out to say no to a particular article.
So we own this, the IDC? Oh, all the changes that we're proposing, the IDC owns?
What do you mean?
So if we as a group, if we said we withdraw it from, I mean, can we withdraw it?
No, I wouldn't withdraw it. So town council gave us options. So she said a couple things, like on any sort of a zoning article, she said what you can do is you can keep it on there, and you can communicate to everybody that it's not going to be heard. And what you do is you, rather than moving it or taking no action, you refer it back to committee, right? So that allows you, like, essentially, so they'd refer it back to the IDC.
What
So
if
that allows you
somebody-
to put it on the next article.
What happens if somebody shows up and decides to move it just for the purposes of killing it?
So she had talked about that. I think the moderator has control of that. Like if we publicly announce that, you know, because we want to limit the attendance, he has it in his control to say it's going to be referred, I believe.
So question to ask you, at what point does that decision get made, and should Paul be pulling those signs to save the money on the signs again?
No, there's nothing to pull. So the other piece of legislation right now, so it's Joe was saying 6 months, but town council, if I remember correctly, said, you know, within 65 days of the public hearing, the article had to be voted on. But he made mention last night of 6 months. So Paul and I took the note to go back to town council to ask about that. Because one of the pieces too that they're talking about changing just due to the current environment is to extend the time from when a public hearing happens and you make all the notifications to abutters to when it's actually voted on, right? Because there is a time limit and it's there for a purpose, but you know, they also understand that a lot of town meetings aren't happening, that we're trying to limit it in the number of attendees. So, I mean, I have to imagine, like, and certainly we'd have to go back to 2017, but I'd have to imagine that meeting, if I remember from the people who were in the auditorium, we had a pretty good representation, right? When the industrial, when the marijuana establishments were first on the warrant to be zoned industrial. So.
Yes, I would agree. Not as much as the industrial park on Leonard Street, but was good attendance.
Right. And certainly not as many people that came to the gym for the Town Hall Senior Center project.
Yeah.
But still, you know, like, do we want an extra 100 people there, an extra 50 people while we're at the tail end, you know,
Yeah,
coming down
and-
from a peak in the pandemic?
And another hour-long discussion
Right.
added to the, yeah. I get it. I
know.
It's disappointing, but I get it.
It's disappointing, and it's really disappointing because, you know, I think about it, and this is what I struggle with, is that the longer that we wait, right? I mean, and Mike has said this, like, our budget right now, we're okay because we have the money. In a year, that's going to be different, right? We're going to feel the pains of the lost revenue. We're going to feel the pains of not getting the same amount of money from the state and so on and so forth. And so now you take an economic project like this and it's delayed even further, right? So you're not bringing in any more. Like now is really the perfect time to put it there, because in a year or a year and a half, when we're feeling the pain, right, we would hopefully have different establishments opening up. So I'm with you, Laura. Trust me, I struggle with it. That's, you know, my opinion.
Renee, is it a possibility to entertain having a special at some point between?
Well, I've thought about that too. I don't know.
I don't know how it's going to be any better. I realize between now and the fall is probably still going to have a lot of issues, but can that just at least be an option on the table of maybe looking into a special to have some of these other, because I would imagine the village core would fall into the same category as, again,
it's zoning, but it's still economic.
It'd be concerning that, you know, to push it forward to this town meeting, because I'd be concerned that it would fail, because people wouldn't want to spend the time understanding it, right? People wouldn't want to go that necessarily on either side. So I think, and once it fails, I think then you have 2 years before.
2 years, yeah.
So I think that's something that needs to be considered too. Pushing things before they're ready could end up backfiring, right? But could we, at least propose maybe as an option if the climate's better, as opposed to waiting for the fall town meeting, having a special in between.
I mean, I think that that's an option. I think, you know, that's based on the board. I think the board of selectmen can call special at any time. You know, I have two concerns with that. Is one is what's the amount of money? Because again, it's still like any meeting that we have in the next 6 months is going to be a meeting where you have to focus on social distancing, right? We're going to have a little bit more, you know, safety, sanitation, things like that at the meeting that we have to think about. But I hear you, and I've thought about that too, because my concern is that, you know, again, if we look at the history of pandemics, and there's a very good likelihood that come fall, we go into another wave, right? And so now our fall town meeting can be jeopardized as well. So how long do you push it off? Like if we do see some sort of seasonal effect, specifically with the coronavirus, with the COVID-19 virus, do we take that as an opportunity in July and August to have a town meeting because the risk is somewhat reduced? You know, but that's a longer conversation, but it also comes at a cost, right? So then you have to weigh that too. So there's no easy answer, unfortunately. Like I said, if we had voted to have a July meeting, I would be more apt to support keeping this on the warrant, because I think that the environment will be a bit different. You know, it's only a month from June, but a lot can happen, specifically in, you know, with a pandemic and response.
I think based on what I saw, you know, on the Norton Neighbors or whatever, it seemed like a lot of people would be interested if it was outside. I think just the inside is going to be a really big concern.
Yeah, if I remember from Bill's, I think he talked about it, like pretty much nobody, there was a very low, like, I don't know, 2% or something, very low response that anybody wants to go in June, number one. And then when you put July in, I think it went over 50%. And then when you said outside, it was a little bit more. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm personally pushing for outside. I mean, everything that we've seen up to this point shows that, you know, being outside reduces the risk. So I don't know why we wouldn't, as a town, do something that is so simple as that, you know?
To almost nothing. I mean, the outside makes a huge difference.
Right. So anyway, back to the information session. Like, would you guys be interested? I mean, it's obviously going to be on Zoom. Would you be interested in looking to try to do it at some point? I don't even know. What's our next meet, like shortly after our next meeting?
I was gonna say, so we have to gather the presentation first, right?
Yeah, well, the presentation is almost done. I mean, it just needs, right, it needs the latest on the application process, which it sounds like Laura has something that we can use as a diagram. We need to
find it, yeah.
maybe put more specifics in about the criteria, right? The traffic, things like that. But the presentation is.
I was gonna say, so I marked down the 4 things we talked about earlier that we wanted to make sure we're in it. I don't know if they're already in it, right? Pictures of some actual establishments or some possible renderings.
Well, those will be easy. So one of the things that, you know, I've talked about for the panelists, right, was to provide, if they had a picture or a rendering of something, while it's not marketing, but it shows, hey, this is what, you know, a cultivation facility looks like. So I think that, you know, that's just pinging others and getting that information in. We just have to decide, is it something that we want to do in the next couple weeks? I think we're pretty much prepped for it. I mean, we can certainly switch our meeting if we need to meet beforehand.
I mean, if you feel like it's in good shape, I'm fine with that. Next question would be, what's the availability of some of the panel people that we want to go, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'd have to reach out to them, but I need a date first.
Got
I mean,
it.
I can pull up, if you want to look at quickly, I can pull up the latest presentation.
Do those usually happen? No, it's all right. I don't want to drag this on until 10 o'clock, honestly, but.
I know you do, though.
No, I don't.
What was your question?
Do these sessions usually happen on a Saturday or on a weeknight? Just, I'm looking at my calendar trying to figure out.
I don't know that there's a standard. I mean, how many, you know, Paul's done a couple on the village core on Saturdays. I think there was one during the week as well. I don't know. What do you guys think would be? You know, it's going to be recorded too. Remember that. So we always have that.
Yeah. I am fine with pretty much anything. I've got no place to go.
I was going to say, you sure with your big plans right now? So if I were to look at the calendar, right, we're at the 27th. Our next scheduled meeting is it the 10th? Oh, I can't make the 10th. Let's talk about that next. But like maybe the week of the 15th to the 19th or 13th to the 20th or something.
How many sessions do we have to have? Because the meeting is on the 27th, right?
The town meeting is, we don't have to have any.
Okay.
Like, I think it would be in our best interest that we
have at least one.
Right.
And then we post the recording afterwards for people who missed it.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm limited a little bit before some evenings because of phone calling and stuff like that I need to do before the 20th.
So the week of the 15th, what we're talking about, right?
I think that looks like one of the better weeks. I mean, based on where we are right now on the calendar.
I was supposed to be in Grand Cayman that week.
So I'm guessing you're free.
You're not anymore, Laura.
I am not.
We can. I'm sure that Denise can put a background up. Denise, can you give her a Grand Cayman background?
I don't know if I have one. I could probably dig one up. I know I've been there.
Do it the 17th then, I guess. Right? I mean,
No, we can't do the 15th because there's 3 of us on the charter, right? The 17th, I could do.
I could probably do the 17th. Or the 18th.
Yeah, it'd have to be a weekday because the 20th is town election, right?
Right.
oh, it is?
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can get we can do it in the afternoon of the 20th, and those people who come to vote in the morning, we can have signs there saying join the session.
Can we vote then? Maybe just have town meeting that day too? If we're gonna do it, let's do all in.
All in one, yeah.
All in.
Just do all in.
Yeah, the 17th works. Do you want to do 17th?
I'm fine with that if that works for everybody. I can reach out to folks.
You're gonna put together the agenda, Renee?
Yep. I think I actually already have it on the presentation. It's just I've taken it out for the versions that we've presented. If I remember correctly.
This isn't a public hearing. What are we calling this?
Information
Info session. Thank you.
Or if anybody else has a snazzier name.
No, I like info session.
So Renee, I think at one time, didn't the planning board want to also join the info session to do the village core, or they're not doing that anymore?
So when I talked to Paul, I asked him if he'd want to do that. And I think it would be fine.
Okay.
Right. But his response was that he didn't, through what they've done so far, they haven't had a lot of interest or participation in it.
Are we taking a position where planning these? I mean, I know that it's through Paul's office. I mean, I'm not in favor of the village core. So.
Of doing it with our info session?
I would rather keep it separate personally.
Okay.
That's fine. I left the call yesterday, but it sounded like they were on the fence about whether or not they were even planning to propose it for this meeting anyway. This town meeting.
They did. They supported.
Oh, they did. Okay.
Yeah, they did. I have a I have a file. Oh, I updated this file based on COVID-19 and our timeline. That's why. I'm like, I have a file here that I updated in April. Oh, you know why? It's posted on Facebook.
Is Mike gone, or is this 774 number Mike?
That's him. I believe that's Mike.
It is.
No.
Mike, is this you, the 774-434?
Doesn't show he's using his mic. But he's got
I thought
audio.
I changed him. Hold on, I have his number.
I was gonna say his name showed up with his phone number last time. I just need to mark him as not being here if he left. I just noticed that he
He
wasn't.
did leave. That's not his cell phone number.
Okay.
Who's on with the cell phone number that ends in 9675? Okay, well, that's not Mike's cell phone. He must have lost his connection again.
That's not, oh no, Alyssa's there.
Okay, so June 17th info session. 6:30, 7 p.
What time?
6:30 or 7.
Might as well keep consistent with 6:30.
Okay. And then let me look at something else here. So, I mean, we'll use the information in the existing presentation. I'll talk about it pretty quickly just to get us through. Are we thinking about an hour-long session? I know I think we talked about this briefly last time, but I don't remember recalling. We just said it was going to be a virtual meeting. I don't have any other virtual meeting with the PowerPoint review as the overview, the process, right? And then the panel.
That phone number belongs to a Jason Daly.
Okay, Detective Laura. So are we fine with that? Like as a 20,000 foot agenda overview, process, which would start from the HCA, include the application, and then the panel. So panel and then a Q&A.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was thinking with the panel, like a brief 1 to 2, well, I'll have to outline this more from a timing perspective, but 1 to 2 minutes kind of intro of the person and their establishment, and what I would say are, you know, challenges or successes that they've encountered. And then what I'd like is if you guys, I thought I asked for this, but I don't have it in my notes. If you guys can come up with some questions, and I would think that we have some canned questions that go along with some of the feedback that we've gotten, right? Like how would you handle potential traffic or odor mitigation, or, you know, things like that we have as canned questions and we would ask to the panel. And then we'll have a brief Q&A session, like where we open it up to questions from the public. I would say 10 or 15 minutes, planning max on that. What do you think? 15-minute panel discussion, 15-minute Q&A.
How many on the panel?
I'd have to count again, but I thought I had 5.
Is 15 minutes enough for a 5-panel presentation or 5-member panel presentation?
Well, it depends. I mean, if we go, so
gonna
5
let them
members,
Each
5
speak, or
members,
they,
2 minutes each, right? As an intro, and then to show a picture or a rendering, and then 5 to 10 minutes for like the questions that we've come up with. One specific to feedback. So I think overall half hour is enough. I mean, I don't see the overview process. I can't remember how long it took us when we talked to the other boards. But I think the overview process, I think that is no longer than 20 minutes, and that's overview and what is the process overall that we're looking for the town. You know, I don't want to get into huge, I think we can put it on visually on the diagram to show the process and kind of where, what does the CCC require? What does the town require? Like put some bullet points under each of those items, but I don't think we have to talk to each of them. I think
So
we
for the
can be
planning
more
board,
high level.
Renee, for the planning board, you were about 25, 30 minutes for both the bylaw, the overview, the bylaw, and the maps.
Okay, so I can trim
I
that down
shouldn't
to
say for
20.
finance. I shouldn't say for finance committee, but for the planning board, you were. Because we started, I remember the time that we marked.
Well, are you talking public hearing or are you talking the presentation
hearing.
that we did? Okay.
Public hearing.
So I think that was more involved in the bylaw. I don't know that we'd go into that level of detail. But I think to that point, I think that's probably a good estimate. I mean, I can try for 20 minutes. I don't think that's a problem. And I don't remember, Michael, did we have questions during that or did they wait for questions till the end?
We wait each section, we did questions after.
Okay. Perfect. So what do you think? Does that sound good? Overview process panel?
I wrote it down.
And you're looking for about five questions from each of us on,
I'd say 3 questions from each. Depending on time. I mean, I would give like 1 to 2 minutes per question. So if you send me 3 questions, we can put them together and then decide what are we can prioritize them. So depending on time, the questions that we ask, and then 2, if we don't have much from the public on Q&A, then we can continue on with the questions that we have.
What do we do if nobody shows up?
And we still have, I mean, we still do the overview, we still do the panel, right? We'll have our questions and then the recording's there for people who want to know about it. So nobody will show up. The IDC at least will show up. We are nobody. We are not nobody. Okay.
Nobody.
Anything else on
Here's that.
on this project? I was super psyched last night when they voted to move it forward. I'm like, oh, thank God.
You concerned they weren't?
I didn't know if they'd vote on it. And when Steve asked me what the expectation was, right? I'm like, well, we're hoping that you vote. It's one of those things, we've been doing it for so long, we finally got the HCA and then we finally got the bylaw and we finally got through planning board. I mean, we still have FinCom and the selectmen and then a town meeting, but in the info session, but it's like baby steps, like we're getting there. I do wish we had the application I do want that application process, that document finalized and comments back in, hopefully to the selectmen. I mean, it may not be, but that's fine if it's not. It's not part of the warrant, but I think it's important to people because I think in most of our conversations when we've talked about the process overall, that they've had more comfort with it than just the bylaw and a map. So I think it's critical for us. Okay, anything else on that item? Perfect. So the next on the agenda is the marketing brochure. So if you remember, Condyne offered that support. I mean, I know we briefly talked about the support letter for the other company. Do we want them to help with any sort of brochure? It sounded like they have, their own marketing department, and if they're willing to put something together, I don't know how we feel about that.
Didn't Anthony also say he knew someone or could help with that last meeting?
He did. Was it marketing or was he going to follow up on the Wheaton stuff? I think he was going to follow up on the Wheaton stuff.
I thought it was the brochure he was gonna.
If they're willing to offer some of their marketing as staff and graphic design possibly, I'd say we take them up on it.
Okay.
I would agree.
And then we can look at it and then filter in the stuff that we've collected and.
Yeah, we'll
Should
have
we-
editorial control over it, provided that's the case, yes.
That's a big word.
Well, I think more than editorial control, I think but
Okay, I'll reach out to him.
can you ask specifically what he needs from us, layout, design, obviously content, what we're looking to do, or?
You know, I mean, he talked about it, right? Like something that shows off Norton that they could hand out to people as well, right? Like a nice brochure we put in town hall, put on Facebook, wherever we want to put it, and that becomes the face of Norton. Not really. The face of Norton's economic development. Hey, that's on the
I was gonna say, not yet. Stop
No.
saying that. We're not yet.
I didn't say commission. I just said economic development. Everybody better vote on the 20th.
Remember the lashing I took from both you and Laura regarding it? You know something? I'm not letting you two off the hook on that one.
I didn't say commission. I said economic development. You did,
Oh.
Laura. You did.
Yeah, he did but it was on, yeah, it wasn't as if you said it at a meeting. You put it on Facebook.
Which nobody was even visiting yet, so toughen up, buttercup.
I know, but I was looking at the numbers today. It's like we have, I don't know,
Now we do.
175
Now we do.
on and like 168 followers.
Yeah.
This is
Every time I see it.
before it was even promoted.
Yeah.
So, hey, did you get the updated maps up there, Laura, by chance?
I put the ones from May 7th. I don't, other than the change that we just talked about on Mansfield Ave, the ones from May 7th are up. The ones from May 20th are not up, but there's not much of a difference other than that one.
Yeah, and then I don't know if there are any other split parcels residential versus, you know, village commercial, or industrial, but that would be different, like just
Yeah.
where the overlay stops.
Yeah, there were a few.
Were there?
Yeah,
I just don't,
Yeah.
a few residential split?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
I still have to answer that last question. I haven't gotten to that yet either.
The question on
The comment on the,
the individual
Post.
who didn't
Yeah.
understand the map.
yes.
I didn't see, did she respond? I'm the one that pushed the question out last night when I saw it. Did she end up responding?
Yes.
Respond to that question?
Yeah, that's the email or text I sent you earlier today
Okay.
with a, what location is,
Yes. Yeah.
conducting businesses.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Thank you for following up on that.
Yeah,
Since I just
I
threw the question out
haven't
to
done
say
it.
I wasn't
I
quite
haven't
sure.
done it yet.
Okay.
So
Well, thank you in advance for following up on that.
I have committed to do so. I have not gotten there yet.
I understand. I've committed to, I sent a note to Danielle Collins on her feedback, and I told her yesterday I was hoping to get back to her like officially yesterday, and I just, between the public hearing and work, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just time, you know. I need
Well-
I need a night where it's just this like 3 meetings in a row thing is killing me.
Well, and we're volunteers.
Right.
This isn't our job. So we're doing
No.
great.
I
Damn
think we
it.
are too. It's only been, oh my God, if this thing is continued till the fall meeting, it'll be over a year. We started this last May, didn't we? Was it
Yeah.
last May?
Yeah, it was
Yep.
last May you dragged me into this.
So it is,
You should come sit in.
yeah. Well,
Totally,
I
that's totally how she presented it too.
Yeah.
I didn't have to dangle the carrot very long.
Yeah.
So it's been a year.
Yeah.
It might actually be the day. I should look up that meeting just to see.
It's been longer than a year, because Myrna, you were talking about it before she was on.
Yeah,
Well, I was talking about it. You figure I went to the cannabis, the New England, I can't remember what it is, New England Cannabis Convention in March of last year.
Right.
And
And
I
that's when
remember
people-
texting, was I texting you, Michael?
You did text me, yes.
So for me, it's been a little longer of, you know, bring it here. Let's make it happen. Anyway, okay, so I'll get back to Jeff on that. And then the last item on our agenda is to review the previous meeting minutes. As I indicated, I'm still waiting for April 15th and the May 12th. Well, Anthony sent it to me. I haven't had a chance to review them. So do you want to just Do we want to just do that at the next meeting and then
Yeah,
I'll go through and review them and get them out? I'm sorry, I meant to do it when he sent it.
no problem. And I'll send you my draft of these right after this meeting, Renee.
Okay, thank you. And the link though to the meetings is out there. Like Michael, I have a placeholder for the 15th because I grabbed the link from the media center, so
Okay.
that's in our agenda. So whenever you send me the
I
rest.
will make I will have them for our next meeting, well before that.
So the next meeting we had planned for June 10th, but Renee, you said you couldn't make that.
Yes, so I actually put on here to be determined because I can't make June 10th. So if we look at that week or up to that week, what do you think for a meeting date?
I'm out June 8th. It's my birthday.
Oh, nice.
According to my calendar, we've got a town meeting that night.
Right. Your calendar is outdated.
Yeah, it does say
Because you missed the
postponed.
meeting.
Mm.
Well, now
I
you can put it on for the 25th.
I can't do the 9th. You can't do the 11th
I can't do the 10th.
or the 11th.
Why can't I do the 11th?
Board of Selectmen?
Oh, right. So we're looking for the public info session on the 17th.
We
What about
don't
the
have
4th?
we don't have Charter Commission on the 8th. Can we do the 8th?
Michael said he can't do the 8th.
I know you guys can do it. I'm just not going to be here. I'm not doing it on my birthday. Sorry, guys. You're really pleasant, and I know I'd love to celebrate my birthday with you, but sorry.
Okay.
We won't have cake for you.
We'll have cake for us.
My kids will be doing something that night. I don't care if it's a long walk.
So do you want to go with June 8th? Why does June 8th ringing?
Because it used to be the
Town meeting.
Is that why?
It's a reason.
It could be, yeah.
I don't know if it's the reason.
I was all excited if my fortunes come true. It would have been my birthday.
All right, so I'm putting down the 8th.
Laura, can you make the 8th?
Yes.
Sandy? And Denise, so I mean, that's at least
Yep.
quorum. And
Yep.
I'll shoot the rest out. So June 8th, 6:30 p.m.
See if the other two Mikes or Anthony are available, right? Or the Fogarty guy. Is he still?
I know, I haven't heard from Frank in a while. Laura, have you heard from him?
I haven't. I suspect maybe he just doesn't have the technology. I'm not exactly sure.
Well, he had responded on Messenger, so I thought I sent the last meeting out on Messenger.
The last one you did on email.
I didn't do Messenger too?
I don't believe so. No, maybe you did. I don't know. It gets to the point where there's so many messages. I just stopped paying attention. I'm sorry.
It's okay. When was the last time that Mike Flaherty was able to attend? Does anybody remember?
Hang on.
Last May?
It was the in-person meeting, I think. It would have been our last in-person meeting.
No, he was where.
That wasn't last May, Denise.
What was our information? He came to.
Not the selectmen's meeting. That one doesn't.
I think our meeting, the last one, he came in late in person while we were working on the bylaws.
I'm going to reach out to him and see. I mean, I know, his bandwidth.
April 30th, it looks
It's
like.
stretched.
Oh, wait, no, that's a BOS agenda, sorry.
Do you have someone right now, Renee, that would want to be? I mean, why are you disrupting? I mean, you can reach out to him, but do you have another select board member that would want to be on it?
It doesn't necessarily have to be a select board member. But there have been others who have talked about interest, yeah. So, I mean,
I
it
thought the
just
two
goes
seats
back
were
to
select board.
Yeah, so I think there's supposed to be 2 select board people on it.
There's two select
Is
board
it?
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where is that stated? Where is
Yeah,
that?
that's,
I got the.
I don't remember
It might be in
now.
our, I think it actually is in our bylaws.
We're not in the bylaws.
Yeah, I got rules. Hold on, man.
we're in the charter, but it just mentions Industrial Development Commission. Doesn't mention,
Nothing in the bylaws about anything with.
I mean,
It
all
talks
I know
about-
is it can't be 3 because then have quorum.
It talks about the number of seats as well as it talks about the select board. Give me a minute.
Well, the Board of Selectmen could change that.
Yeah.
Because it's not in our bylaws, it's not in our charter. So that must have been a Board of Selectmen decision when it was first created.
Not in the charter?
Well, I mean, we're mentioned, but we're not, there's nothing specific.
Our name is just there, and that's why we have to vote to change our name. And so I guess if I search on, hey, by the way, Sandy, good job getting your volume fixed for your speakers
I
or
have
whatever.
no idea what happened last night. I went to 2 meetings today, 3 meetings yesterday. It was just,
Random.
yeah, I don't know. If Laura, were you logged in as me? Is that
No, I was on my Norton email account, the town email account.
because it kept saying you're already logged in.
Oh, I kept getting a similar thing when I was trying to do oh, maybe that was it. But this was after. So after I hung up with you, I tried to create the agenda for Charter Commission, and I need your login to set up the Zoom meeting. And while I was in Zoom, it kicked me out twice while I was trying to copy the invitation information.
So the only thing that says that I see is that the Board of Selectmen will appoint. It just has appointments. Board of Selectmen shall have appointment authority for, and then Industrial Development Commission is on there.
I remember seeing this, and I just don't remember where I saw it. Also, just point of, Renee, have you checked to see what about commissions when everyone's commissions expire?
It's on the website.
Is it on there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I think mine's actually coming up because I took Salvos.
Mine's, yeah, I think it was Salvo was
Oh no, Savo was Selectmen.
Selectmen.
But yet my commission didn't mine never changed, right? I just, like I said, I don't think anywhere it says that it's a board of.
I'm up this
5.
year. Massini is up this year.
So when you say this year, you mean this?
2020, June 1st, 2020. Or June 30th, 2020.
Okay. We should probably try to get reappointments, right?
Well, it typically comes to us automatically, but the fact that it hasn't come to us yet, I'm surprised.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. I didn't know whether it was automatic unless you told them you didn't want it to stay in the seat.
It is pretty much.
Okay.
And
I
so
want
you
out,
have
damn
no
it.
choice. Nope, you have no choice.
I want out.
You're in it until this is done.
Let me out.
By the way, I think she's totally lied to you, Laura. It isn't automatic, but right now, as far as she's concerned, until this is done, it's automatic.
No, I mean, like I wasn't like, nobody came out to me and said, hey, do you want to do it? Well, yeah, we got a letter from Michelle. Remember saying call her if we didn't want to do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's.
Laura's not going to get that letter.
I think you're supposed to say which way, like you're supposed to respond to the letter if you want to or not want to. That's the way it's
Maybe.
with the,
Yeah. I mean, I think that would make the most sense, right? I would have to go and look at my letter.
Yeah, I'm gonna say. I mean, based on the records that we last saw, nobody was really keeping close track of who was on it, who was resigned.
Right.
So,
But I can tell you when my term was up, I was on that spreadsheet because I had to recuse myself from voting for myself.
I've got the commission before us, and who took what seats.
I took Salvo's when Salvo stepped down.
No, when Salvo took Renee's.
I was on with Salvo. I did not take his seat.
I took Salvo specifically because that's how my letter was written. They approached me and said there's a seat available because Salvo had stepped down, so I took Salvo's spot because I was an alternate at that point.
Okay, so that was Renee's seat. That Salvo stepped down, you took that seat.
If that were the case, I would be up this June, and I'm not.
You're a selectman.
It doesn't matter. I still have a term. The seats aren't based on selectmen, right? The problem is that we can't have 3 selectmen on the IDC because then we have quorum of the selectmen of the board. I have nothing that says it needs to be 2 selectmen. So unless you find something.
Yeah, I don't remember where I got it from, but that was in my head.
Yeah, I remember seeing something specific about that too, and I just can't find it right this minute. I'm furiously looking for it.
I guess it could be in the bylaws. Let's look.
We're definitely not in the bylaws, Laura. 'Cause
No?
No, definitely not.
Where else would it be then? We know it's not in the charter.
No, and that's what I'm saying. I think it was one of those like the Alternative Transportation Committee was just formed by the
Yeah.
selectmen. It's not, nothing's outlined anywhere. They just
So you're
decided
saying
formed
this
us
year?
as there's 7 people, and that's the criteria was set at that point. I don't know where it's written or where it's documented, but we're not part
It's
of
just all hearsay at this point.
I'm going to look at the old mission statement.
Yeah, there's nothing here.
Oh wait, I had something that said it's titled Charter. Norton,
Sorry.
IDC, page 15, 9/4/2019, Chapter C Charter. Page 15.
So it was before it was.
That's the same thing. It says that the Board of Selectmen shall have appointment authority for an Industrial Development Commission. That's it.
Denise, I just saw where you live. I just saw your address.
You saw it in your documentation for IDC?
Yes.
I was wondering where exactly that was
Should she not
going.
say that? Should she be worried that you know where she lives now?
What else you got in that file?
I'm opening up a store.
So Renee was 2019 originally before she was before she was a select person. Vacant. Bob Salvo was 2020. Dave Heaney was 2020. Denise was 2019. I was 21.
I just got renewed in 19.
Alec Rich seat was 18 and it had not been filled. And then Mike Flaherty's was 21.
Yeah, so Massini took Heaney and I took Salvo.
Who took, no, Bob, who took who took Alec Rich's seat?
I don't even know who that is.
What term?
Alec Rich? You know,
What's
I don't
the
know who that is
expiring
in
term?
respect to the
Alec
IDC.
Rich decided not to come back, but he was, and it's 7 full, 2 alternates, 3-year terms. All right, I'll find out. I'll figure that out.
All right. I mean, if you know whose term, what year his term expires.
Yeah.
Actually, well, we know when Denise and Renee both joined, so it would have either have been, it was Flaherty or you.
No, we were both, Flaherty and I were both 2021.
Correct. Right, but we know, well, I don't know, maybe Denise took this guy's seat, I don't know.
No, Denise was,
I am up first to get out of this.
You're in 2022, you don't get out for a long time.
Denise was actually 2019.
We
Sorry,
were just renewed, Denise.
Denise,
know.
sorry, you missed your opportunity.
They're 3-year terms, so.
Yep. Speak up or forever hold your peace. All right, cool.
All right, we got way off track. What are we doing?
I was just talking about what I was going to reach out to Mike because he hasn't been in a meeting, and I don't know if if there are others who are interested in contributing.
Are we
If a
motioning
select,
to?
if a select person isn't required, let's assign it to someone else who wants to be on.
Well, I mean, we can open it up if somebody wants to be on, then they can do that. So anyway, I think I just happened to look down at who was present and not present. So, okay. So our next meeting, June 8th, 6:30 p.m. We will review meeting minutes at that time. Any further items for discussion? Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Seconded.
Second. So Denise motions, Laura seconds, and hold on, I need a roll call. I just need to write my little list here. Hold on. I just need to make sure Missy didn't come back on. Okay, so a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting at 9:06 p.m. Denise,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Michael,
Aye.
Sandy?
Yes.
And I say yes, so it's unanimous. So we are adjourned. Thank you guys, and we'll see you on, except for Michael. Michael, happy early birthday on June 8th, and the rest of us will celebrate with you on Zoom.
Swing by.
All right.
You're not doing anything.
See you in June 8th.
Be well, guys.
No,
You
guys,
too.
you too.
Thank you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.